Hello and welcome back to another coding session with Mr. Jacob. Today we want to write a Neovim plugin, not as part of our Neovim from scratch series, but as a side project to it, so to speak. Because we are using the Project.nvim plugin in our Neovim from scratch series configuration, as well as fzf-lua. And even though I am not using a particular feature of Project.nvim, which is the telescope finder that you see here, which shows you all of your previous project and allows you to take action on the basis of this selection window here, like, for example, changing into them, grepping through them, and all that kind of stuff. There has been some comments to my videos which asked if there is a possibility to use this kind of selection with fzf-lua, even though that Project.nvim doesn't support that natively, because Project.nvim comes with a telescope extension we cannot use because we use fzf-lua. And as I've said, I don't actually use this selection, so I never work with that because I'm using Zoxide to change into my project directories on a shell level and then simply open up my Neovims there. So that's how I do that, and I don't need this window actually. Nevertheless, I thought it would be a good example of writing a Neovim plugin, which I haven't done for quite some time, so this will be an interesting session, as well as showing you how you can actually create fzf selectors which have your kind of information in it from scratch to search through anything you actually want, kind of. So I think we should just get started, just get right into it and try to recreate this thing. The first thing, however, that I want to do here to have something to kind of orient myself at is I think I want to actually take this extension of the Project.nvim here and simply more or less copy that. So let's copy the URL and just steal that for now so that we can kind of port it. So let's go into our TMP folder where we have a couple of stuff laying around from the last sessions of our NVIM from scratch series. And now I think we can just add there, no, I wanted this one, just the Project.Lua extension. So let's maybe move that to Project.Lua. Let's call that Projects telescope.lua, just so that we can easily find it when we need it. Okay, so then let's fire up our Neovim here and let's go into our Lua folder. I don't really want to create a plugin from scratch now, but just let's create a Lua file here, which has kind of the structure of a plugin, even though we might not actually use that in the end, because I kind of want to present this as a pull request if everything works out to the Project.nvim author, and hope that it is merged then there so that we can actually have it within the basic plugin there. So, but let's just not worry about that. Let's call that project fzf. Not gzf, but fzf.lua. Okay, let's save that, create that, go into that. There we are, nice. So now the usual thing that a plugin always starts with is something like you have a table which is called M for module. And at the end you are returning this module simply. So that is kind of how a plugin is always structured, because doing it this way, we can actually then in the end have something like, if we require project fzf here as a plugin in the end, we can then call something on it. For example, a setup function, which we could easily create here now by defining a function called mSetup. Like this with end there, and now we could do something like print setup called or something like that. So actually you can define functions in Lua on tables like that. So now here will be a function defined on the table M, and it will then be local, of course, to this tables, because it will be part of the table. And essentially this is the same as if I would have done m.setup equals function something end. So essentially this, if I not write invalid Lua code there, essentially this and this is actually kind of the same. So I like this syntax here a little bit better, but that's absolutely to your taste. So as with the usual way, our plugin will have a setup function. If it actually needs one, we will see, but for now we just define that. However, we have a certain kind of dependencies. We need, first of all, project, of course, and then we need fzf-lua. So what we need here are dependencies. So I think we should kind of check for those so that we cannot be loaded actually if those plugins aren't already there, because then we might have a problem because we need to depend on those. So the most easiest way to do this is by actually kind of requiring them, but in a way that we can check whether we were able to require them or if that failed. So if we would do just something like, for example, fzf-lua require I seem to cannot type today, fzf-lua. So if we would do it like that, and we wouldn't have a fzf-lua module available that could be loaded, then this would actually error out and fail quite violently. But we do not want that. We want to do that in a way that we can actually control. So that is where we can use the Lua command pcall. Pcall actually allows us to call a Lua function, but in the case of an error, just return this information as a Boolean to us, which can then be used to detect that this happened. So what we actually make out of this is we make a pcall, which is then given the function that should be called as well as the arguments that this function should be called with, and we are actually getting back two values. We are getting back either, first of all, the value that tells us if the call actually succeeded, and then we are getting the result of the real call. So doing it like that, we can actually check if we have fzf-lua support. So if we do not have fzf-lua support, so not has fzf-lua, then we want to throw a real error here maybe, so kind of log an error, which then would be a little bit more descriptive in this case. We could simply do something else. We could simply ignore that and simply tell the system that we then do not load. If there is no fzf-lua, we could maybe just do something like put a return here so that we would then not load our plugin. I think maybe we want to do that. Do we want to do that? I have no idea. Maybe for now, I think I want to throw an error. So fzf-lua is a dependency of project fzf. So just to make things a little bit easier, if it isn't loaded, I want to see that actually somewhere. Okay, so now we can kind of just copy all of that. Yeah, come on, give me that, copy that. And now we can do the same thing here with project, because we need project as well. So yeah, that's the thing I think we need. So has project, then project_nvim, and that's, by the way, the thing. It's not called project, it's called Project.nvim. Yeah, and we need that. So now, once we are beyond this point, we know that both of those are available for us. And we have the basic setup of our plugin and a setup function that we can do something with. And then we now can define further functions on our M table here, which we return, which then can, on the other side, be called by anyone wanting to use our plugin. So that's kind of our basic plugin structure, more or less. That's actually the basic structure of all plugins that I've seen so far, that I've written so far. So that's kind of the base structure there. So now let's go ahead and let's take a look at what we actually want to write, because even though I have seen this window here and I have an idea of what this actually is, I want to take a look at the code, and I haven't done that before. And as I've said, I'm not really using this window and this selector here in my usual work, so I don't really know how this works. So let's take a look. We put that somewhere. Temp projects telescope, I think. Okay, so let's take a look at that. First of all, yeah, as you can see, they are doing essentially the same thing. They are doing a P call here to see that we have telescope actually ready. And I think as this is part of project, the projects plugin, they don't need to check for the projects plugin. That kind of makes sense. They seem to use some kind of things here, a couple of things from the project NVim, which is first of all history, project, and config. Okay, yeah, let's see where we need those. I think we will just steal those imports later on. Then they have something which creates a finder that actually creates us a telescope finder. It creates us entries. Okay, it does. It has the first items. So wait a second. This part here has a length of a maximum of 30 characters, and then we have remaining where we put the rest. So this is we are making a display entry with a name and a value. That's a couple. That's quite different in Telescope than it is in fzf, because in fzf all of that is just a string. You are just kind of putting strings into the fzf selector, and that's what it displays, and then you can do stuff with that. But we will see. So that's kind of all formatting here. Change working directory. So I think that gets a prompt buff number. So most likely the prompt of the telescope selector, I think. The buff number of the telescope selector prompt. Yeah. They're actually getting the entry from the selector. So essentially they are getting the entry that you made here, the kind of thing that you selected. And they are getting out of that. Then they are closing the telescope window, and then they are actually using project. And this isn't this the? Yes, this is the project thing that they actually imported there. Okay, that makes sense. So that is definitely a function that we will need. Okay, and then they have something like find project files and so on, browse project files, search project files, recent project files, delete project files. Oh, so there seem to be more than one action. I wasn't sure about that. I thought maybe it's just like you open this up and then press enter, and then it will go to this project. So that's the interesting part. That's where the telescope picker is created. So there we can actually see what it does. It uses this finder, so it uses this list. We will have to reproduce that, and then we have a couple of actions. That's actually a couple of actions we can't, or a couple of key mappings which we can't really reproduce, because telescope has a differentiation exactly as the editor between insert mode and normal mode. So you can be in a mode where you actually select something or move around in this window here, but you are not actually in the entering mode where you can actually enter something here. That would be the insert mode then. And actually fzf-lua doesn't have that. So if I just pick the file chooser here, I'm always in this insert mode. I can always type here stuff and it will search, and I can always navigate around here and it will do stuff. So those key mappings we will not be able to do, but I don't think that's a problem, because there seem to be control key mappings for more or less the same things. Yes, for exactly the same things actually. So that we can actually reproduce those. And those map to those functions that we have seen above. Okay, we will need to take a look at them when we are at this part of the implementation, what they exactly do. So this seems to be the default action. So this might be the first one that we should actually implement. So on project selected, that would be that one. So find project files. So essentially, let's recapitulate. I don't know the word. Let's think about what we now need to do. We first of all need to somehow create an fzf selector that kind of looks like this and displays this information here. And then we need to create this find project files action. That shouldn't be too hard actually. So first of all, let's see again how these actions are actually, those information actually is created. So results, history, get recent project. So let's see what this actually is. Let's first of all steal this and copy that over to our file. So I think I will put that just there, because after that we know that we have Project.nvim. So now we could create some function, maybe a function m.projects. Yeah, makes sense. I don't know yet if it takes options or not. We will see in a second. Okay, so now we have this projects function. So what I wanted to do now was, what was it, like history get recent projects. Okay, let's copy this one over as well. Let's put that there, and let's maybe results. Results is a little bit strange. Let's call that project. Let's call that recent projects. because the function is called get recent project. And let's take a quick look at what is actually in here. The easiest way to actually do that is to simply print it out and use vim inspect, which, by the way, is a quite interesting function and a useful function in the plugin writing process, because in default Lua, as far as I know, there is no method to inspect tables and all different kinds of data structures. And with vim inspect, actually, you can kind of convert every data structure to a string to show it. And so we can simply print it. So the question is, how do we now call that? We could source that file, and then we could call the function on it. The question is, however, how do we actually source that? So if I do a Lua file %, which is the current file, it would source that. But I'm not sure. I don't think I can then call something on that. So I think the most easiest way to do that for now would be to just put a projects call maybe here. Of course, in the end, we wouldn't do that. We would map that to a key binding or something like that. But this should actually now call our function. So let's source our file and let's see messages. Okay, so the last message here, that is the one that we printed. And it seems that's just a table with the project in there. Okay, so I don't have any other project in there. So let's maybe quickly open one up just to see what would happen. I think we have this Rust example project thingy here in here somewhere. Okay, so now it should actually have, let me see if it really changed projects. Yes, it changed projects. So let's go back to, no, I want to close that no, I didn't want to close the whole Vim. Okay, yeah, no problem. So now I would go back into this fzf project thingy here, exactly, and I would need the one that I stole stuff off. That would be the telescope one. Okay, nice. Okay, so where were we? We actually were looking at Lua file, at sourcing this one and having and hopefully now this has 2 entries. Okay, now this has 2 entries. So it's just a list of the full project directories that we get. Okay, that kind of makes things sense. So what are they actually displaying here? They are, oh, okay, the part in front of that only seems to be just the name. So just the last part of our path. Okay, that should be easy enough. So yeah, that's showcase, which kind of acts up sometimes. Okay, so now that we know that we actually have this information, we need to somehow prepare that a little to show up a file chooser. But first of all, we could maybe just run an fzf selector with those non-formatted information and then format it and go on. I think that would be the most easiest way to go. So actually, I need to take a look how this actually works with fzf, because I haven't done it for quite some time. So let's open up fzf here. Let's go to, I think, customization and then extensibility. Yeah. The wiki has examples for that. Exactly. fzf-exec it was. Yeah, I can never remember this name. So there is this function called fzf-exec, which you can actually use to give it some contents and a whole lot of opts, which you can actually find. Those are all the possible fzf opts. So every option that you kind of can give to the fzf executable on your command line, which is a lot, or which are a lot, you can actually give to this thing here as well. Nevertheless, what is interesting to us maybe is something like the working directory. I'm not sure about that 100%. The prompt, definitely. And of course, the actions, which will allow us to define what happens once you press enter, or for example, any of the other key combinations that were defined in the project selector there. The contents, on the other hand, is kind of interesting. It can be simply a string, which means it will execute this one in the shell, that is then a command, and pipe it into fzf. That's not what we want. It can be a table, which is most likely what we want, because we actually have a table of entries there to display. Or it can be a function, and this function then actually gets a callback, and this one can be called every time we have a new data set, and so we add that. And we can even use Lua coroutines to make that kind of run in the background to already show the list and then populate it in the background if this takes a long time, if we are, for example, populating a really long list. In our situation, I don't think that this project list ever gets as big as we or has a size that we get to a problem here. So we can simply use a static table for that. But as you can already see, it's an array of strings. So we cannot have specifically objects with data attached to those strings. And I will show you a way on how we can actually do that nevertheless, even though it costs us a lot more memory than just having the strings there. But as I've said, the amount of entries that we have there, that should not be a problem, as we do not have so many there. Nevertheless, that's a quite interesting difference between Telescope and fzf. fzf always works on those string lines only, so only the information that you see in the fzf selector is the information that you have on that line usually. Whereas in Telescope, you can actually attach information to each of those selector lines, which you might not specifically have displayed there. It's just in the backing store kind of saved for you so that you can actually access it once you know which one the user selected. So that's a difference. Nevertheless, fzf exec. So let's quickly do that. So we already have fzf-lua required. We did that above there, so in the top line. So let's do an fzf-lua fzf exec. And what we can do now here is we have our recent projects. So let's just put them in there. They are a table with a couple of strings in it. So no, I just wanted to do something like maybe prompt. And prompt should be something like projects, maybe like this. And I think we need this, and then I want to re-indent the whole file because otherwise it looks horrible. Okay, so we have a trailing space. Let's quickly fix that. So, okay, so let's see what actually happens if we call that Lua file %. Okay, and now you can see we have our first selector. It has now the Rust example in it, and it has the Neovim from scratch in it. So I think we need to kind of format that, but first of all, let's take a look if this is actually what we want there displayed. It looks right, but what's happening here? Okay, it takes this one, then it reverses the results. Oh, okay, because I see, because it wants the most recent one first, most likely. Does that make sense? But we had the most recent one first, didn't we? No, we did not, because we were in the NVim thingy there. Okay, so the order is different if we have get recent project. Okay, maybe then we should do the same thing. By the way, this is a neat little trick because Lua doesn't have a functionality, at least as far as I know. If you know one, please let me know in the comments, to reverse the order of a table. And therefore, that's a quite neat little trick that is done here to reverse it in place by simply always exchanging the first one and the last one, then going one down and exchanging that one, the second one with the second to last one, and so on until you meet in the middle, and then you are finished. Then you have actually reversed the order, and it's actually quite a neat way to do that if you want to do that in place. That is, of course. So let's go to our file here and let's maybe do that then. And this is not called results in our implementation here, but we actually called that recent projects, didn't we? So let's rename that. Perfect. So now we should have that. And now if I do a Lua file, yeah, it's the other way around. Okay, so the most recent one is at the top and the least recent one is at the bottom. Yeah, that kind of makes more sense. Okay, so now that we have that, let's quickly take a look at the formatting, because I think that will not take that many time here to actually do that. So where was that? We wanted the last part of that thing in the front, and then we wanted a spacing. And didn't we see how much spacing that was? Yes, here. So we want that with a spacing of 30. Okay, so that should be quite easy to do. So let's see. Let's maybe do something like local displayed or projects, let's call that projects display or something like that. That will be the table that actually contains the lines that will be displayed. So projects display. Okay, so we have changed that now. So now we do need to go through the recent projects. So this will be projects. Isn't that kind of a project path? I think that's kind of a project path. So in iPairs, recent projects, yes. And we want to do something with that. And then we simply want for now to do something like projects display. And we want actually to insert something into that. So table insert into projects display. We want to do something like format for display or something like that. And we do project path. Okay. So now, of course, we need the function which is called format for display. So function, no, this will be a local function, of course. So format for display. And it takes a project path, actually. So, okay. And as you can see here, I'm not declaring that function as m.format for display because I don't want to export it, actually. I want it as a local function in our plugin. Because it's just a helper function. And now we need to somehow, first of all, extract that name. I think we can easily do that with a regular expression. So let's quickly do that. So local name equals the project path that we simply match against the regular expression, which would be something like we want to find the last slash. Then we want to actually have a capture group here, and then we want the end of the string. And in the capture group, we want something like everything that doesn't have a slash in it. And we want at least one, and but at a maximum a multiple of those. I think this should actually give us, this capture group, this should give us the last part. Yeah, that should work actually. And now we have, why is the indentation not working here? Okay, so now we need something like return. And now we want something like string format, I think. And string format actually is has the kind of equivalence to the printf formatting strings. So I think we should be able to do that. So we want a string actually, and we want to follow this followed by a space and another string. And we will correctly pad that in a second. But we want the name first, and then we actually want the whole project path. So, and now we need to kind of pad the first column, the first string by, I already forgot that again. Let's see, 30 characters. So we should be able to do this by doing a write pad with 30 characters. So essentially this should give us a string which has the name first and then padded to 30 length and then the project part. So let's maybe see if this actually works. It works. So now we have already our formatted entries here, which is quite nice. Okay. So the formatting is already kind of complete. We could now color this, for example, the second part or something like that. fzf actually has somewhere some ANSI color module which actually can help us with that. But yeah, let's not overdo it now. So that's already quite nice, I think. Okay, so now that we have that, let's see, what can we do here with regards to the selection now? Because now we have kind of a slight problem that we haven't talked about yet, but I will now. Okay, now we have the display ready, and now we want to define actions here. And actions actually are just kind of key mappings. And the most default action is the default action. So I define it like so, and by giving it a default here, and then this is a function, and this function actually gets a selection. And we will see in a second what this selection is. So if I do a in here a print and I do a vim inspect selection, we will quickly see what actually this is. So if I now run that, and I, for example, press enter on this Rust example thingy here, and then I call up my messages, we see that this selection is nothing more than a table with, in this situation, one entry, because we have a single select fzf thingy there. And it has exactly the selected string, which of course is not what we want, because if I understood correctly, we want to do something with this. Let's validate that before we go into extracting that kind of, or discussing how we can actually do that. But let's see. So actually this is created by, yeah, we have this entry name and we have the entry value. And I think that the entry value is later on taken by something like here, change working directory, get selected entry value. Yes. So we are actually taking the project path and working with that. Yes. And then we are actually putting this into project. Yeah. Okay. So we need to kind of extract that somehow. We have kind of multiple possibilities now. We could, wait a second, what? Okay, that was a show keys error again. But what's interesting, or what's important here, is still this. So we have multiple possibilities. We could either use simply this string now and extract this last part again, for example, with a regex again or something like that, and then use that because we have the full path in there. But in situations like this, where I don't have a lot, like thousands of elements, but only a couple of elements, like for example 100 or a couple hundred, I tend to have kind of a backing data store, the kind of the same way as with Telescope. And I want to show you how I do that with fzf-lua, because it's actually quite easy, but it's a neat way to do that. So together with something like projects display, we now have something like projects data, and we simply define that as another Lua table here. Okay, so, and when we are creating our entries, we are kind of splitting that one off. So we have the name here, or let's call that the display. Let's call that display, yes. And we are simply taking this out of here and then putting display here. Not the neatest way, maybe not the neatest naming here, but this should work. This should not have yet changed anything. But now I have this display value here, and what I can do now is I can do something like projects data, and I actually use that display value as a key to this table, because tables are dictionaries or hash maps as well. So I can now assign a new data table to that, and I can put whatever data I want there, and then I can later on find it again once a selection has taken place and I have a structured data map there. So that's actually what I'm going to do. So I'm going to put the name there, which might be kind of, oh, we don't have that name, have we? Do we need that name? I don't think we need that name. Okay, so as we do not need that name, we will simply put the path here now, and we simply put the project path there. So now we have assigned to the display value our project path data, and we could have, as you have already seen, I started to do that even though I don't need that information. We could have something like a name there, or any other kind of data, even data that isn't really displayed, but that we want to transport through our selection chain to, in the end, know that this data has been selected by the user somehow. Okay. So now that we have that, actually, we can use that here in our selection. So we already know that selection is a table with one entry. So this might not always be a selection with one entry. So we should actually check that. So if we do not have a selection, or if the selection, the size of the selection, so the length, is less than 1, then we should, I think, just return here and just do nothing, because this could actually happen in certain situations where, for example, the selector is empty and you press still enter, then we do not have a selection and something like that. Okay, so that's just a little bit for our own sanity here to check. Now we actually can local, we called it displayed, didn't we? Display, we called it display. Display is really a bad name for that, but yeah, I don't care now. Okay, let's keep it that display. So now we actually have this selected, or maybe we should call that selected. Let's call that selected. In this case, we can call that selected. We simply take the first element of the selection table that we have there and take it out. And by the way, Lua tables are 1 indexed, not 0 indexed, as with multiple and nearly all other languages. But Lua tables are 1 indexed. Keep that in mind, because otherwise it always and at every time breaks my neck when coding Lua, but they are 1 indexed. Okay, so now we have this selected thing in here, and what we can now do is we can simply extract the data again from our project's data here by actually just querying the table for this index key, which is the long formatted string that contains everything that we actually kind of need there. So now we have that data, so now we have that path. So let's now take a quick look what actually happens there. So this is change working directory, and if I've understood correctly, this is actually called at, was it find project files? Was that our default action? Let's see, find project files, yes. So find project files actually first does this change working directory, and then it calls a find files chooser. Okay, that's interesting, but yeah, it kind of makes sense. As I've said, I've never used this thing, so I don't really know what it does. So we are still implementing that. So this is all telescope stuff. So what we need actually is kind of this here. So let's steal that and copy that over. So we actually want to change the project. Okay, so project path, of course, we don't know, we don't have yet, but we have data path, which is now our transported information here. And this telescope, okay, we need to take a look at, can I actually go into that? I can. Why does my VI know where to? Oh, because I have installed Project.nvim as a plugin in my current configuration, so it can actually jump in there. Okay, that's nice. So let's see what this method actually, where do we actually use that in this function? So, okay, is that all? Okay, so it's just using it for more or less for logging. Okay, so as it only uses it for logging, I think we don't have any problem here just putting fzf-lua in there, so to signal that we are now changing the project by fzf-lua. Okay, so now we have that. So let's quickly check. What is the next thing that happens here? So it find project files. It changed the directory. Oh yeah. It made this. Okay, let's kind of steal this code and let's just adapt it to fzf-lua style. So wait a second. That's of course wrong. So let's re-indent and let's see. Okay, this looks already better. Okay, so actually, this built-in thingy here we have to replace with something fzf-lua-like, so a file finder with fzf-lua file finder, but those are the options. So let's see what options are they setting. They are setting the current working directory as their project path. I don't think that this is actually needed because I would have assumed that this actually changes the current working directory. So I would have thought this is not needed. Hidden is actually an option that is accepted by fzf-lua as well, if I'm thinking about that. So we can simply take that from config, wherever that... Wait, what's that config? Oh, we got that from Project.nvim. Okay, makes sense. So we are just taking that. Mode insert. That's I already talked about that a telescope has an insert mode and fzf-lua doesn't. So we don't need to do something like insert mode here, but now we have to actually call the files chooser here from fzf-lua instead of the one that we have with telescope. So let's do that. We have fzf-lua here, so files, and we put the opt in there, even though I think this should be called opts. Why is a table with multiple opts called opt? I don't think that makes sense, so let's rename that. And we only want to do that if this CD is successful. I'm really sure we don't need this current working directory change there. Okay, so now let's see if this actually works. I would say it should work. So it should already do the most basic thing here. So we are currently in the NVim from scratch directory. So if I now go to Rust example and press enter, it should show me a file chooser from the Rust example directory. And it does. Perfect. So if I now, for example, go into this file here and I open up it, yeah, we are actually in this project now and it has changed the working directory to this project. Okay, nice. We have implemented the default functionality of this plugin. So I like that. That was kind of easy. So where is it? It's this one. Okay, so has it actually changed the... Yeah, now it changed back because we opened a file from this buffer there again. Okay, nice. So now we actually have this default action implemented. So there were a couple of others. So let's maybe take a look and implement them as well. So what do we have here as well? We have find project files. Okay, we have browse project files. What's actually browse project files? It's changing the working directory as well, and then it's calling file browser. Okay, I don't really know actually what file browser is in Telescope. Let's maybe quickly try and find out, because I don't know if there is an equivalent thing in Telescope file browser. If there is something equivalent in fzf-lua. So what is this? Is a file browser extension for Telescope.nvim. It supports and so on and so on. Wait, what? It's an extension? Okay, so isn't that... I see, but is that really what... Wait, Telescope... Because it's called from the built-in, so that's kind of strange. I would have assumed built-in file. Is it called file? It's called file browser, and it's called from the Telescope file browser, and then that's the same thing again, isn't it? Yeah, it's the same thing. Okay, so there is a file that we don't have that. Okay, so let's for now just kind of skip that one. Then we don't have that. That's no problem. If you are interested in that and you want something like that, please just add it. After this video, you should have all the needed capabilities to just write this little function there to actually call a file browser. If you understand better than me what this does and if you need that. Okay, then we have search in project files. Are they always? They are kind of always doing the same thing, changing the working directory and actually then just calling. I see, just calling the corresponding selector there. So yeah, that would be a live grep in the directory. That should actually be quite easy to do. So search in project files. So yeah, let's maybe just implement that. So search in project files. Okay, we would need to know actually where or how this is mapped, don't we? So that was here. That would be Control S. Okay, we can do that. So let's just put it here. Is that right? Is that the correct position? I think so, yes. So we need Control S. That's, by the way, just how you map that. You just map the key combination as a table key in Lua, and you just assign a function to it. So that would be selection here, and then we would have and I think actually we can kind of refactor out all of that, maybe, because it's more or less always the same. I think I would just now copy that. Okay, so let's refactor this out quickly into a function here. So let's do a local function. How do we actually call that one? Something like change working directory by selection or something like that. And then it would take a selection, and then it would have the code here, and then it would have an end here, and then we would have just re-indent everything quickly because we still don't have a formatter installed here. Undefined global projects data. Oh yeah, yeah, that's actually true because we have that within our projects function, which is kind of right. So I think we will just projects data. We will just pass that along here, I think. So where are we actually calling that? We are not calling that at all yet. Okay, so what we want now is local cd successful should be change working directory with projects data and selection. Something like that. And then we can, then we can do it like that. And what we need here still is we need to return this result, don't we? So we could return this. And I think we need to return. Okay, so local cd successful, and we need to return maybe data and cd successful here, because I want to pass out the selected data there as well, because we will need that. I think. Maybe we don't. I don't know. I don't care. So I think we can easily just grab that here if we really need that. So in this case, we don't need it, so we don't grab it. Okay, but now we have this refactored. So let's copy this part out. So we are actually changing the working directory here. And now we need to, what was it? Live. We wanted to live grab, didn't we? So are there any special other options here? Which they are doing here. So search in project files. No, they are just using the hidden option again. And of course the project path that we don't need to, because we actually changed already to it. And I think it's just live grab, if I remember correctly. Otherwise I have to take a look at the list in the on the website. But I think it's fzf-lua live grab. So this should actually take care of that. So let's quickly see. So if I now, for example, do a Control S here, I will be in the grep, and I could now do something like cargo or something like that, and it will live grab the file here, and I could press enter, and I'm in that file, and it should have changed to the directory, and it did not. Okay, why did it not? Why did it not change to the directory there? Okay, that's a little bit strange. Let's try that again, maybe. Something is wrong there. So wait a second. Okay, again, I changed working direct. Did I now, let me quickly check if I broke the pressing of enter. So if I press enter here and I'm going, for example, into this file, okay, it changed working directory, so we did not break things by refactoring stuff out. That's already a good thing. So why was it actually, wait a second, where is my, there. Why is it broken now? So I'm doing the same thing here. I'm calling the change working directory. I'm doing the options here. I'm calling live grep with the corresponding options, just showing hidden files, and then that's strange. That should have worked. Let's try that again. Maybe it was a fluke because something wasn't really loaded there or something like that. So I'm doing Control S. And now, I don't know, for print line, there we are. So we are now going here, and now it worked. I have an idea why this did not work, because if I am in the cargo log, it may not be able to identify the project correctly. That might actually be the case, because the current problem here is I think it is looking for a cargo toml or cargo log file in a parent directory and to identify the root actually. And the problem here might be that this Rust example directory is a subdirectory of my NVim directory. Yeah, I think that makes sense. So I think everything's working fine. Okay, so yeah. I'm quite sure that this is the case, actually. So we had search in project files. We have that now. So what's the next one? The next one would be recent project files. So what's that? That's actually quite easy to do as well. So what we want here is we want just a list of the last recently used files from within the project directory. Okay, where is that mapped? So recent project files, is that Command R? Okay, let's do that. Let's do that quickly. Let's copy this one here. Let's do it like that. R, and now we need, and now I don't know. That's one that I don't know from the top of my head. So let's take a look. So we need to go just to the repository because I know where to look, and there is a list of all of the neat commands, and there should be buffers and files, and there should be old files. Okay, so old files. I think that's exactly the same name that it had in the other, that is named a telescope. But yeah, okay, so old files. So we will put the opts in there, and then we will take a look at the opts here again, because I think they were a little bit different here. Current working directory only. Oh yeah, that makes sense. We do not want to list all files, but only the ones that are in the current working directory. And I have no idea how this option actually is named in fzf. So let's maybe quickly check that. fzf-lua, I think I have. Yes, I haven't checked out of this thing here. So let's open up NVim. And let's see. I think that is something like providers, and then yeah, providers old files there. So that's already the right line, isn't it? Okay, great. I love it. Okay, so it seems that there is an option CVD only. I don't think I need to further investigate that. So because that makes absolute sense. So yeah. Okay. So no, that's another shell. So let's go out of that, and we can simply set CVD only. We want hidden as well. Makes sense. So we simply give it this opts, not opt, and we need to change that because did I do the same thing here as well? Okay, so I want opts. I want opts. Why the hell didn't I change that? Am I in the wrong? Oh, I'm in the. Okay, I didn't want to say anything. I am in the wrong file. I am actually in the telescope file. So let's switch to this one, and there it's called opts. Okay, everything is all right. And then I need CVD only to be true. But do I need to set the CVD then? It might be that we then need to set that one. So I think in this situation, I might need the data actually. Let's just to be sure, let's do that. I don't think that's a problem here. So need check nil. Could it be nil? It should not be possible that this is nil actually. Wait, what just happened? I pressed some weird key combination. Something strange happened, but I think I now repaired it again. Okay, so wait. What just happened here? Where am I? I'm in the wrong file. So there we were. Data path. Need check nil. So why could this be nil? That is what I wanted to check. So wait a second. We are returning data and then CD successful. That actually is a problem. I did it in the wrong order, didn't I? Okay, that's a problem, of course. Okay, so now it should be good. It isn't. Why isn't it? because it thinks data could be nil. Why the heck could data be nil in this situation? I don't even understand why this could actually happen. So because this could be nil, because it might be that it is not there. Yeah, okay, I understand that kind of, but okay, maybe we should do this in this function then. So if data equals nil, then error selected entry does not have data in the backing store. Should not be possible. Return. Yeah, what am I returning now actually? I don't actually want to kind of return, but yeah, then I'm just returning false nil. But then I need to nil check it again, don't I? Then I'm just returning an empty the empty table here. That should kind of maybe work. We will see. It still needs a nil check. Yeah. So wait, what? Where did I go now? What? Okay. Yeah, need nil check. Okay. Okay, if data equals nil, then return end. Okay, so I think there is a neater way to do this in Lua, but yeah, I don't care right now. Okay, so now we have actually this one here. So what else was there? So we have telescope, the thingy here. Search in project, recent project files, delete project. Ooh, nice. So is this the last one actually? Delete project. Okay, so let's kind of steal that just to have a reference there, and let's see where it was bound. So it is bound to Control D. So let's quickly check. We have find, browse, we skipped, we have then delete, we have search, recent, and oh, change working directory we don't have. So we can actually just change it without actually calling some sort of finding system there. Okay, that kind of makes sense as well. But let's for now just do the control, the delete thingy here. So Control D, and this would be a function which takes the selection and end, and then let's put what we stole from the other file there. Let's re-indent. There we are. So okay, so that is actually getting the information there. So essentially that is what this is. But we Oh, interesting. So is this actually not... Yeah, this kind of makes sense. This is not changing the directory. That's actually interesting. So we kind of need to a little bit refactor this as well, I think. So what we need to do is we need to have something like, or we could just take that from yeah, but then we wouldn't have the checking out the checking there, would we? So I think we want something like get project data for the selection, and this should actually give us data then. And I think yeah. Let's quickly implement that so that we have a local function here which does get project data for projects data and a selection here. And now we are just taking kind of this part of this function and putting that there. And now this is just returning an empty data set, an empty table here, and otherwise it is, wait a second, and otherwise it is returning the data. Yes, that makes sense. And now this one simply makes local data equals get project data, projects data selection. Nil check needed. Yeah. Okay, so if there must be a better way to do this. If you know a better way to do this, please let me know in the comments. I think I will remember a better way to do this right after this stream. But you never know. So, okay, so data, if data equals nil, then return, I don't know, false, empty something. But no, oh, data path can actually be nil. Because the data itself cannot be nil, because we are already checking that. I see. So what I actually need to do is something like if data path is nil, then I want to return false with an empty table. Okay. But it doesn't seem to understand that. Because I think that can't actually happen. But yeah, okay, maybe just some return type I would need to define or something like that. Okay, nevertheless, this should now actually do, but now I should be able to put a comma there, and now I have get project data. Now I should be able to get that project data out of there, and this can of course be nil again, so let's quickly do that. So if data equals nil, just return and something like this, and there is an then missing, I see. Okay, this can then be gone because that's just some stuff there with regards to getting the value from telescope. This is actually an interesting one because it confirms that we want to delete something. And the question is, do we want to confirm the whole thing there or just the name? I think we only want the name. But we don't have that in our data, don't we? So yeah, I thought in the beginning we might need it, and then I thought we don't need it. But now you can see we can easily add that actually. So if I just do name here, I think at least, or how did we call that? Oh, we don't have that here because format for display doesn't give that to us. That's no problem. We are just returning that here then, and then we are going to format for display, and we are simply returning name and the display string. Okay, so yeah, there and then. Okay, so now that's why I usually have this as an object there with this backing store, because it makes things a lot easier should you at some time need further information to be transported there. It makes things just a little bit neater. So, okay, so wait, where was I? Like I was here somewhere and I just wanted to add this name then. So, okay, we wanted to delete the name, yes, no. If we deleted that, we delete the selected entry. So we delete then data path. And then what does it do? It simply resets the finder. Yeah, we cannot do this easily, but what we can do actually is just doing an fzf-lua. No, wait, we can do m.projects. We can just call ourselves again, which should then show the display again after deleting the thing. Yeah, okay. Okay. So now we actually should have delete implemented. Lua file %. Let's see. So if I go to this one and I press Ctrl D, I say yes, and it is still there. Okay, did we get any messages here? Okay, we get, no, that's showkeys again. So, no, okay, I had a lot, I should clear that. Let me quickly clear the messages clear. Let me do the loading here again. Let me try that again. Yes. Okay. That definitely did not work. But did we get any messages? We did not get any messages. So why did this not delete? So, but it definitely called this branch here because it reran the selector. Okay, that's strange. What actually is this function doing? So it's taking the project, then it's iterating through its recent projects, and then it's comparing its recent project value? Oh, wait a second. Were they putting in there delete project? Were they selected entries? So is this... Oh, okay. So this selected entry here that they are actually expecting for delete project is the telescope entry object, which contains the value and the name and all of that. That is actually this data object that they have there. Okay, so I think they just wrote this delete project function only for this telescope implementation and therefore took the data format of the telescope thing. Okay, but can we... Do they... Let me take a quick look. So they are doing nothing else but checking for project value. Okay, then this is quite easily fixable, I think, by just simulating that and giving it a table with a value field, which then has this data path. So this most likely will fix it. We will see. So if I now go here and press Ctrl D and say yes, it's still there. Why is it? Wait, what? Wait a second, why is it still there? Has that something to do with that I can't delete projects which... Okay, let me quickly check. I want to make sure that this hasn't something to do with the fact that this Rust project is within my NVim from scratch directory. So let me just go here, for example. Let's make something like a foo directory here. Let's maybe quickly do a git init or so that it actually has something to attach to as a root directory. And let's do something like foo.sh in here, and let's just not have anything in here, only the file needs to exist. Okay, so now I'm going out of that directory. Oh no, wait, did I change something here? What file is that? That's Project.Lua. I don't want to change something there. So let's do something like foo. Let's call up NVim here. Let's see, let's open up the foo.sh. Now we are in this thingy here. And if I now, damn, I now can't easily actually source that file. So, oh, yeah, maybe I can, maybe I can't. Let's do something, let's remove our, because we are kind of finished, let's remove our debug call here that we have here, just to make sure that we are not doing that anymore. And then let's maybe just define quickly a key binding for this thing so that we can really open this up in the way it is supposed to be. So let's do something like leader fp find project. Yeah, kind of would make sense, at least in the region of my key bindings here. And this would be a function where we simply require project fzf and then call projects on it, exactly. And then we have an end here, and we don't need a further description or something like that. I just want to try this one out. So if I now do NVim here, and I open up that file, and now I do leader fp, nicely done. We are in this selector, and now we have our foo thingy here, and we have a couple of other projects there. So let's now switch to the Rust example here. Let's open up the main RS. Now let's call this one example up again, and let's do a Ctrl D on foo. And we say yes, and it's still there. So it does not work. Why doesn't it work? Interesting. Messages. Do we have any messages? We do not have any messages. So let's see. Something else is still broken there. So we have here somewhere delete. Okay, so it is calling this. The question is this actually what it expects there? Let's take a look again. Maybe I did something wrong there. So it's actually comparing this with project value, and it's comparing its recent projects. And I would assume that these recent projects is the same list that we got from the system when we actually took that. Okay, so that should work, but let's maybe just to make sure, let's just print out the data that we have here. So vim inspect data. So this should actually be the correct data, because we are definitely within this choice block. We are calling that, aren't we? Okay, I need to restart NVim now. Let's go back into the right NVim from scratch, into the right folder here. Let's go, I don't know, do we even need to go into the directory? I don't think so. So let's just do Control D. I do yes. And yeah, that, okay, now it's gone. Did I just not reload? Oh, maybe I just did not. Did I just not reload something there? Because now it seems to have worked. So wait a second. Control D. So let's remove that again. Let's save that. Let's quit out of that. So if I now do, what was it, FP, and I delete, for example, the Rust example, it's gone. So now it's working. Okay, I would assume that I just did not reload the file, did not resource the file or something like that. It's getting quite late here. So no, that is the wrong file. That was fzf-lua directly. So now we are here. There was one function still missing, if I remember correctly. That was the one that simply changed the working directory, wasn't it? So let's see. Change working directory, Control W. I think we can quickly do that, and then we are actually finished. We have re-implemented this thing for fzf-lua. Okay, so this was projects. Wait, what? No, project. There, project fzf. Okay, so let's go down here somewhere. Let's copy that and let's paste that. Let's do a Control W here, and we need get project data. No, what we actually need is more or less, I think we only need this one line, don't we? So this one line should actually be enough. Yeah, and we actually don't even need the responses. So even though I like to do it like that, nevertheless, to just show that there are actually responses, even though this is of course not needed here now. Yeah, but this should work as well. So if I now go out of that, I go now into that one and I do a project selection, and now, yeah, I've now I have deleted all of the other projects there. So let me quickly go into our Rust example here again. So now we should actually have, if I do a file search, we are in the Rust example directory. Okay, and if I do now project selection and I select this one and I press Control W and I do a file selection again, we are in our Lua configuration directory. So yeah, nice. We did that. We implemented the fzf version of this projects view here that I actually don't really use, but now you can if you are using fzf-lua, as with our Neovim from scratch series, and you want to use this in the Project.nvim plugin, then please don't hesitate to do so now. I will create a pull request for that. And I will need to take a look at how I can best integrate that, but I think that shouldn't be too hard, maybe as a submodule within the project plugin, and then I will create a pull request, and then I will hope that it will get merged quickly. Until then, I will have this in a separate branch within my Neovim from scratch repository. It will be linked down below in the video description. And if it shouldn't get merged quickly, then I will just publish it as a separate plugin, which can be used then. Maybe I will do that anyways. But I think it would be a nice thing to actually have within the Project.nvim repository. So I think I will create a pull request for that. Yeah, I hope you had fun seeing me struggle implement a Neovim plugin after quite some time doing that. And figuring out again how Lua works and how Neovim plugins work. And I hope you learned something about how this can be done, how you can create your own fzf-lua selectors there to maybe create your own work with that. And if you do so, please let me know. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments. If you only want to interact with me in the comments, you are welcome to as well, because talking with you, first of all, is a lot of fun and always a nice thing. And second of all, it helps me with the YouTube algorithm bumping up my videos a little bit more. So that's always a good thing if you want to do that. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to be informed when the next one is out, you know the drill. Please hit the subscribe button and the bell next to it to get a notification. Until then, I hope you have fun coding and I see you then. Bye.